Hello, my name is Nate from Long Range X, and I wanted to do a video today. Something that's getting talked about a lot anymore is barrel life. We're seeing a lot more of these big Magnum cartridges come out. We're seeing 6mm PRCs and 6.5 300 Weatherbys and 6.5 PRCs and 26 nozzlers and 28 nozzlers, and a lot of these big barrel burners are coming out and they're taking the floor. Even the 6mm Creedmoor, within reason, could be thrown in that category, but we're seeing a lot of Magnum cartridges with extreme velocities. We're trying to get to that 18, 19 MOA at 1,000 yards. And something I hear talked about a lot is what's the barrel life on that, or what's the barrel life on this cartridge or that cartridge. And barrel life isn't a cut dry conversation. There's a lot of factors that go with barrel life. One of the main factors to barrel life is speed and heat. So if you take a 28 nozzler and you're shooting 150 or 160 grain bullets out of it at 3,400 feet a second, what you're going to notice with that barrel, especially if you're not keeping it cool, is you're going to get about 650, 700 rounds out of it, a barrel life. If you're shooting hotter powders and you're not shooting some cooler powders, if you're a cooler powder that works better, especially in areas it's not temperature sensitive, and it's a cooler powder, is like H1000. So a lot of these powders that are way hotter powders, and they just don't work as good in these heavy magnums because they sit in the throat of that chamber and they burn. And that's what's firecracking a lot of these chambers, is a lot of people aren't giving them time to cool down, or they're shooting smaller bullets really fast, and we're not getting good barrel life. So if you take like a 28 nozzler with a 150, 160 grain bullet and you're being meaner to it, you're going to notice a barrel life of like 650 to 700 rounds. Where if you took that same rifle, same barrel, and started over, and you were shooting H1000 or a powder similar to like Retumbo, and you were shooting it with 180 grain bullets or 195 grain bullets at 3,100 feet a second, you're going to notice a longer barrel life, especially if you're just shooting 2-3 round strings and you're keeping that barrel cool. Another big factor to barrel life is factory barrel versus custom barrel. A lot of these factory barrels aren't built to the same specs or the same tolerances that these custom barrels are. A lot of these custom barrels, like Brux or Schillen or Rock Creek, they're a very, 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 very well built barrel, built with the best materials money can buy, built to amazing tolerances. You're going to notice longer barrel lives out of custom rifles than you will a factory rifle, hands down, 99% of the time. Something I'm hearing a lot is a lot of people are claiming different barrel lives for different cartridges. You'll hear one guy say, well, I'm shooting this rifle and I got 800 rounds out of it before I burnt the barrel. And you'll hear another guy say, well, I shot 3,000 rounds out of that rifle and I'm barrel's still shooting good. Well, one of the main factors in barrel life, you take a competition shooter that's shooting 15, 20 round strings and he's shooting them hard and fast and flat, and you take him and he's got to sit there and shoot a 10 round string, and he's got to beat the wind and he's got to beat the clock, and he's keeping that barrel warm. His barrel ain't going to last as long, and that's what he's paying to play the game. That's what he has to do. Another thing is you take a brand new barrel and you do the load development for it. During the break-in process, while you're breaking this barrel in, let's say you're shooting a 6.5 PRC at 3,050 feet a second, you're going to notice a 50 to 75 feet per second increase as the barrel breaks in. So if you're shooting this rifle at 3,050, you're going to be getting 31.25 or 31 after the first 40 to 60 rounds that you fire through this rifle. So now you take, and let's just say you're shooting 3,100 feet a second. You shoot that rifle 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 times. You're going to notice that decrease 100 feet a second. You're going to notice one hole 5-shot groups open up to one hole 3/4 inch groups, or 5-shot 3/4 inch groups. While you're doing all this, a lot of these competition shooters notice that decrease in velocity, or notice that one little flyer that's just outside the group, or they notice the accuracy drop. They can't afford that. So they start to notice these things, and they will yank that barrel off and get a brand new barrel on there before their next 500-round competition comes up. So they've treated this barrel poorly, shooting these strings, not badmouth them. That's the name of the game we play. They're shooting these as fast and as hot as they can, trying to beat wind, and they're shooting big strings, and they're not practicing cool down, and they're trying for the most accurate they can possibly be, so they're pulling these barrels quick. Well, that's one side of barrel life. If you were to take that same barrel and run it cool, and you weren't chronographing it 24/7, and you mistook this for a bad day when you seen your groups open up, and you weren't chasing your lands, and you weren't looking for fire cracks between 1 and 5 inches up the barrel, that barrel might last you another 800 rounds than it lasted them boys. The thing about it is there isn't a set to answer on any of this. You take a 17 Remington or a 17 Remington Fireball or a 20 Tactical or a 204, and you throw a tiny bullet going 4,200, 4,100 feet a second with these tiny little bullets, and you're shooting prairie dogs with it in the hot sun, you're going to notice a barrel life of between 17 and 1,900 rounds. And you're not going to notice a group go from one hole 5-shot group to this. You're going to notice shooting 10 rounds on paper and it going from this to this all of a sudden. And they'll even keyhole where they hit the target sideways. And it'll look like a perfect bullet just got pushed through that paper. They're no longer following the riflings. That barrel is burnt out. So there's a big difference between a burnout barrel and a loss of performance barrel. They both mean the same thing. But if you take a rifle and let's use the 26 Nosler, and you're shooting or 264, and you're shooting a 120 grain bullet as fast and hard as you can, and you're not letting it cool down, your barrel life's just going to be horrible. Where if you take that same cartridge and you're shooting a 153 or a 143 and you're giving it proper cool down time and you're shooting cooler powders, your barrel life's going to be twice as good. So this is something that gets thrown around a lot. And one thing I wanted to touch on is I see a lot of guys buying these rifles that are speed demons, these cartridges that are built for speed and designed to be the best on the block and the best at what they do, and get down to 18, 19 MOA at 1,000 and buck wind. And they're buying these cartridges, they're loading them heavy in the bullets, and then they're downgrading on the powder. They're decreasing their powder charge as much as they possibly can. And the reason they're doing this is because they're trying to save on barrel life. They're like, we just don't need that much speed. If I pull it down 150, 200 feet a second from what it can do, I'm just really saving on barrel life. And I've heard that a lot. If you're that worried about it, get a smaller cartridge you can run to max performance and be in that same range. Instead of following the trend and getting these speed demons and then trying to babysit it to save barrel life, realistically, there's a lot of us that you could go buy a 26 Nosler that got 800 rounds of barrel life if you treated it nice. There's a lot of us that would never fire 800 rounds through that cartridge. You'd live and die with that same rifle before you fired that many rounds. There's a lot of us that 800 rounds wouldn't last 3 years. It all depends the shooter, what you're doing with the cartridge, how you're treating the rifle, what your barrel's made out of, who built the rifle, who's building your loads. Are they factory hand loads? Are you loading them hot? There's a lot that plays into it, which is why there's never a right and wrong answer. So some tips I'm going to throw out for barrel life is if you're a reloader, always look for maximum BCs on these big barrel burners, which means shoot the biggest bullet you can possibly shoot accurately that matches to your twist. The next is look at all your powders and pick a cool shooting powder. If you're shooting these big barrel burners, look for a cooler burning powder, which is really hard right now with the ammo crunch. I understand that. A lot of us are just throwing any powder that'll work. Another big one is keeping it cool, not shooting it a whole lot in the summer heat. If it's 90, 95 degrees outside, don't go out there and shoot a 10-round string at a gong. Just calm down and just shoot a couple rounds, drink some water, look at your Facebook. Just give it time. One thing that always bothers me to see, and it's their rifle, they can do what you want, but you go to these shooting ranges and you'll see someone sitting down there with a 264 or a big speed burner, and they'll be sitting there just boom, 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 trying to hit 1,000 or 1,200 yard gong. And they're not in a competition, they're in no hurry, and they're not giving that barrel proper time to allow to cool. Those are the barrels we're going to see get burnt out really fast in this game. Those barrels they're not going to last. Their barrels aren't built for that. We're already pushing the limits with what we're doing now. Give your gun proper time to cool. And I'm not talking to the competition shooters that don't have a second choice. Another one is if you're looking at having a rifle built, try to pick some of these barrel builders like Brux or Rock Creek that know what they're doing, that are good at what they do and good at building barrels, and you're going to notice a better barrel life. And another one is pick a cartridge that you're comfortable with. I mean, if it's set in your head that you're going to buy this rifle and it's a big bad barrel burner, and this isn't something you want to have because you're terrified that you're going to lose your barrel in 900 or 1,000 rounds or 1,400 rounds or 800 rounds, then pick a different cartridge that fits you. And don't follow the craze, because a lot of these guns is, a lot of these people are paying to play the game here. A lot of these people are shooting thousands of rounds a year. A lot of these people are shooting 100 rounds a year. So it all depends on how you're playing and what your game is. Whether you're just a guy that draws an elk tag or an antelope tag, and that's what you buy this rifle for, is that 2-3 shots that you got to take on game, and the 20-30 rounds you put in before the season for practice, and the 30 rounds you put in the spring before the fall comes. If you're shooting 50-60 rounds a year, this isn't that big of a deal. If you're sitting down and you're shooting 400 or 500 rounds a year, this might not be the rifle for you if you're worried about barrel life. If calling a gunsmith and having it rebarreled is something you're worried about. None of this is bad-mouthing anybody. This is just trying to be as informative about the situation as I can. There's a lot of questions and a lot of answers and a lot of different answers, and the reason is because it's not black and white. There is no single answer to the equation. 6.5 Creeds have proven that they have an extreme barrel life. There's nothing that has a barrel life on it like a 308. There's boys claiming they got 10,000 rounds through their 308. Some barrels that aren't as good, people are losing in 4,000 rounds in a 308. So I mean, it all depends on what you're shooting, what you're worried about, and what you're actually trying to accomplish, or what you're actually doing. It's not a scientific answer, but I hope I cleared some of that up. If you have any questions, throw it down in the comments. Please let me know what you think about this video. Please hit me up with a like, and please subscribe to my channel. I haven't been uploading videos like I should be. I've had a couple people ask me why not, and this is a good attempt. I thank you for all who subscribe to my channel. God bless America. And a lot of hunting seasons are coming up as the fall approaches, and I wish you guys the best of luck. Thank you very much.